India is home to 440 million children. It is a demographic that represents the country's future, but it also contains its most vulnerable citizens. Yet out of the millions of orphaned and abandoned children across the country, less than 1% are actually placed in formal care. For that 1%, the default system is the Child Care Institution, or CCI. These facilities are designed to warehouse children, keeping them in closed-off environments away from the public eye. This numerical paradox is the predictable result of a system built on invisibility. When the most vulnerable members of society are kept entirely out of public sight, their protection ceases to be a functional priority for the state. This chart tracks the continuous underfunding of child welfare. Over the last decade, the allocation from the union budget dropped from 4.5% to just 2.3%, keeping the total spend consistently under 1% of India's GDP. Without the necessary funds or infrastructure to manage the crisis directly, the state began outsourcing its constitutional duty of care to private NGOs, often with no functional oversight. When a government pays private actors to warehouse marginalized children behind closed doors, it risks transforming a moral duty into a lucrative, exploitative industry. In 2018, that outsourced system was forensically exposed. The Bihar government commissioned a social audit of 110 shelter homes by the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, known as TISS. The auditors bypassed the usual bureaucratic checklists and spoke directly to the children in custodial care. The findings were catastrophic. Severe abuse was uncovered in 15 different homes, but the situation at the Balika Gree in Muzaffarpur was the most extreme, where 34 out of 42 girls were confirmed to have been abused. The atrocities at Muzaffarpur were not the isolated actions of a few rogue employees. They were the symptoms of a highly organized, systemic operational model. The man at the center of the Muzaffarpur shelter was Brajesh Thakur. He was an influential businessman and media figure who used his public standing to shield his private operations. Thakur ran what can be described as an advertisement game. He claimed his newspaper, Prata Kamal, had a circulation of 60,000 copies, represented by this tower. In reality, he printed barely 300 copies, shown here. He used this fake circulation to extract 30 lakh rupees annually in government ad revenue from the Information and Public Relations Department. The Enforcement Directorate later found that Thakur's NGO siphoned off 7.57 crore rupees in government grants meant for the girls' welfare, funneling those funds instead into personal real estate and mutual funds. The girls in the shelter were treated as human collateral. Their presence was required solely to justify the state funding that fueled Thakur's empire. The victims were kept isolated by the very people meant to protect them. The local child welfare committees, statutory bodies designated as the legal guardians of children in care, and child protection officers were actively complicit in the cover-up. Because the local political and bureaucratic network was so deeply compromised, the Supreme Court of India stepped in. In an unprecedented move, the Supreme Court stripped Bihar of its jurisdiction and transferred the trial to a special POSKO court in New Delhi. POSKO stands for the Protection of Children from Sexual Offenses. The trial resulted in multiple life sentences for Thakur and his accomplices. While these convictions delivered localized justice, removing one bad actor did not fix the structural vulnerabilities present in the thousands of other institutions operating across the country. The Muzaffarpur crisis provided proof that the warehouse model of child protection is inherently dangerous. It forced a national reckoning with how India treats its children in care. This led to the 2021 amendments to the Juvenile Justice Act, designed to dismantle the localized corruption loops that had protected abusers. The amendment shifted ultimate oversight power away from isolated welfare committees and placed it directly into the hands of the district magistrate, the senior-most executive official in a district, to enforce administrative accountability. This was followed by Mission Vatsalya, a new national strategy aimed at defunding massive, closed-door institutions in favor of family-based care. The state recognized that the most effective way to protect children from institutional abuse is to move away from using institutions as the primary solution. The impact of this shift is measurable. Between 2021 and 2024, placements in non-institutional care, like foster care and sponsorship, grew by 400%. A successful example of this model is the Jalna Kinship Program. It keeps the children of migrating sugarcane laborers within their extended communities rather than sending them to distant orphanages. These localized, community-based care models are culturally grounded and more cost-effective. Crucially, they provide emotional stability that a warehouse-style facility cannot offer. True child protection isn't about building more secure institutions. It is about building a system where the welfare of children can never again be exploited as a business.